All right, welcome in. It's Logan Ward's show. NBA, we are full steam ahead with the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. If you are watching this, or listening, I'm recording this before Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So right now, the Pacers are up 1-0 in a crazy game, which we'll get to here in just a second. And then last night, the Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder up 2-0, look like a buzzsaw. So we're going to talk about those two things here on the show. Be sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, and whatnot. So let's go ahead and just dive into Game 2 of Oklahoma City and the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is, I find this really interesting. Oklahoma City is a team that, on paper, most teams should love. Most teams and most people and most fans should be rooting for. It's a team that has been built through the genius and savvy moves of Sam Presti, who traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who drafted Chet Holmgren, who has all of these players that are feel uniquely Oklahoma City. They have a stockpile of draft picks. They seem to really embrace kind of the playful nature that is professional sports and what is sports in general, just period, right? Everyone talks about you're just playing a kid's game. They bring that type of kid energy, and yet I don't think anyone really likes this team. It is kind of bizarre, and I'm not sure if it's just because they won 68 games in the regular season, that they swept the Memphis Grizzlies in round 1 and it wasn't even competitive, that so far through 2 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have just dominated this series and, again, just look like a buzzsaw. I don't know if that's the case, and maybe fans are all like predetermining that they're not going to like this team for years to come and that this is going to be an issue and that this team's going to be around, and so we're just not going to like them. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's the goofy kind of corny interviews with their local TV hosts that go viral and they're put on social media that people talk about that maybe rubs people the wrong way. I am not sure what it is about the Oklahoma City Thunder that people don't like. What I do know is that for whatever reason, this team's kind of not likable. Now, I will say that I think some of this is what fans, and honestly, after game 1, when I was watching it, it's like, I think that some of this is just people don't like the way that Shai plays. When you're MVP and your go-to guy, Doris Burke, on the broadcast in game 1 called him a foul merchant, and said that Twitter says he's a foul merchant. I don't want to put words in Doris Burke's mouth, the GOAT, but says that Twitter says he's a foul merchant, gets some really weird calls and some bad calls, but gets him to the line to try to convert at the free throw line. There's jokes all about him in the free throw department. And this, I think, was actually a really good point made by Nick Wright, is that defensively, the Oklahoma City Thunder are an incredible defensive team. They held Anthony Edwards to 0 points in the fourth quarter in game 1. Has been extremely inefficient in his game. Julius Randle hasn't played particularly well in the first 2 games of the series. Their defense has really done a great job. No supporting cast members for the Timberwolves have actually done much in this series. And a lot of it is credit to the Oklahoma City defense. This defense has been really good over the last 2 games, and they get away with a lot of fouls. And on the other end, it seems like offensively, they're foul hunting. that they are looking to try to get someone in a adverse position, not to try to just score the bucket, but to get foul calls. And I don't think that it was as bad in game 2 as it was in game 1. But I think maybe that's why people aren't fans of the Oklahoma City Thunder. That this is a team that plays incredibly physical and intense defense, gets away with a lot on the defensive side, and then their philosophy on the other side of the ball is to just draw fouls. I think that might be the reason that this team isn't looked upon as, a really likable team. I think there's a lot of people that would rather see Minnesota win this series. It's not looking like that's going to happen. This OKC team right now looks like a buzzsaw. They look like a team that is going to win the NBA Finals. And looking at the other side of the bracket with the Knicks Pacers, I'm not sure either one of those teams are going to be able to keep up with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I especially don't think that the Knicks would be. And I think more so it's just offensively, I don't know if the Knicks would be able to handle it. I think defensively, they have a couple of guys that they might be able to throw at Shea. I know that Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby are some of those guys that you might be able to throw at it, but it looks like Oklahoma City's going to win this NBA Finals. And for whatever reason, this team just not very likable. And so what we are seeing is a team that's going to start running through the Western Conference Finals. The numbers have already come out and said that, not a lot of people are watching this series. And I don't think a lot of people like the Oklahoma City Thunder. So they're up 2-0. I imagine that this series is over in 5. Unless, Anthony Edwards even had a good game last night, but it still didn't matter. The Thunder are just a really good team at forcing turnovers and getting out in transition and getting buckets, and then, of course, getting to the line. So I think that this series is going to be relatively easy for the Thunder. All right, let's talk Pacers, Knicks. Again, if you're watching this, I am recording this before Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So whatever happens tonight in the Knicks Pacers series, that's going to be a separate. Has going to have to be a separate podcast because I can't do that right now because I've only seen Game 1. Here's what I will say, and I tweeted this out after Game 1. This Pacers team. This Pacers team is on an insane run right now in terms of its clutch ability. They have been in this situation. I think they've had 3 such games this postseason where they were down by like 15 points with a couple minutes to go and somehow came back in miraculous fashion. I know they did it in a game against Cleveland. Of course, Game 1 against the Knicks, it was just like they started hitting every shot, and this is going to be the Nesmith game where he goes, 8 for 9 from behind the arc. It was a quite insane series. Let me see. What did Aaron Nesmith go? Aaron Nesmith, I think, went 8 for 9 in that Game 5 or that Game 1 against the Pacers. Let's see. 8 for 9. Yeah, 8 for 9 from 3. Finished the game with 30 points and just got hot in the fourth quarter. And defensively, I don't think there was much that the Knicks could do about it because Aaron Nesmith was just hitting every shot. So do I think that the Knicks can still win this series? Absolutely. I don't think that they're as deep as the Pacers. I think the Pacers have a deeper rotation. I do think that the Pacers' pace of play, where they get up and down the court a lot, is something that is going to bother New York. And maybe not in Game 1 and Game 2, Game 3, but if this series goes 6, I truly believe that the pace of the Pacers and the way that they play is going to be an issue for the Knicks, because the Knicks really want to slow the tempo down. And Jalen Brunson dribbles the air out of the ball. I think he's a great player, but I do think that they want to slow the game down, and a lot of it is just Jalen Brunson dribble until, there's a shot, until he can make the shot. So I think that this series is going to be longer than the Oklahoma City and Minnesota series. I still think that the Pacers win in 6. As a fan, I honestly would love to see the New York Knicks win it and get to the NBA Finals. Not that I think that they would have any chance against Oklahoma City, but this is one of those series where you're going to go back and forth and see, all right, there are two different styles of play in this, where the Pacers like to get up and down the court. Knicks want to try to slow you down, because the Knicks only play 7 players all game, and they don't have the rotation and the bench and the depth that the Indiana Pacers have. And so this is going to be kind of a series between two different philosophies, two different basketball philosophies. And I'm here for it. I'm always here for historical matchups. That's why every year I'm like, I would love for a Celtics-Lakers matchup again. I love the Pacers-Knicks because of the history between these two teams. I want the Bulls and Pistons to play in these series again. I love the history of basketball, and when these two franchises meet in the postseason, it's nothing but cinema, and I love it. All right, so I want to pivot just for a moment, because we are seeing something in the NBA that has never been done before. We have had 7 consecutive years where there has been a different NBA champion. And it has been 7 straight years since there has been not a repeat champion, but there has been 7 straight years where a team has not won the NBA Finals in a series. So in 2019, you have the Raptors. In 2020, the Lakers. 21, the Bucks. 22, the Warriors. 23, the Nuggets. 24, the Celtics. And this year, you will have a new NBA champion. So the last time that a team won was Golden State won in 17 and 18, and then won in 22. So Golden State's the closest one, right? This is, I think, a design by the NBA. The new CBA with the specific aprons, and you have the first apron and the second apron on your luxury tax. I do think that there are now teams that aren't going to be as willing to pay those luxury tax. That was the thing with the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors would just pay the luxury tax. Their salaries were over the cap. They would just pay that luxury tax. Doesn't matter, because you're adding value to the franchise. You're probably selling more. You're on national television even more. Your brand is getting bigger when you're in the NBA Finals and the Western Conference Finals. You're selling more tickets. You're selling more merch. So you kind of swallow that whistle, because the value of the franchise goes up. And that's what we've seen with the Golden State Warriors. Before they were winning championships, they weren't as valued as they are now. They're one of the top 3 or 4 most valued franchises in the league. And so with the new CBA and with all of these financial burdens that the NBA has put on teams, if they're over the cap, this is what happens. And I think that a lot of the times we become too enamored with dynasties in terms of like, this is going to be the next dynasty. This team is going to be the next dynasty. We thought that Giannis and the Bucks were going to go on a dynastic run, because who was going to be able to stop Giannis and Chris Middleton and all that? Well, Chris Middleton got hurt. He's traded, no longer there. Giannis hasn't been out of the second round since. The Warriors, we knew, were on the back side, the tail end of their run when they won their championship in 2022 over the Celtics. Then you have the Nuggets over the Heat. And it's like, okay, here's Denver, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. Here is the dynasty that we've been waiting for. Who is beating this team? Who is beating Jokic and Murray and KCP and Michael Porter? And then you got to start paying people. And you got to start playing Bruce Brown. And you got to try to figure out what to do with KCP. And Michael Porter Jr. has an injury. And Jamal Murray can't stay healthy really in the postseason. You have the Boston Celtics, who are like, all right, this team is a dynasty. Who is stopping these two teams? You have Jaylen Brown, you have Jason Tatum, you have this incredible cast around them. They beat the Mavericks 4-1, and you're like, this is the next dynasty. And then around 2, Jason Tatum pops his Achilles. Everything changes because now you have 2 players on max contracts. You can't afford to pay everyone. You're probably going to have to trade Kristaps Porzingis or Drew Holiday. Al Horford's probably going to retire. Now, there's no dynasty. You're going to lose a year, Jason Tatum. The Nuggets this year, we're like, all right, if the Nuggets can get to the NBA Finals and they can win 2 out of 3, here's your next dynasty. Well, what do? They run into the buzzsaw that is Oklahoma City. They played 2 consecutive series of Game 7s, and in Game 7 against the Thunder, they just weren't there. They weren't ready. Now this season, we look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and we're like, all right, you have SGA, you have Chet, you have Jalen Williams, you have Jason Williams, you have all of these players. You have Lou Dort and Alex Caruso, who are great defensive players. You have all of this, plus you have draft pick after draft pick after draft pick. You have an insane amount of just assets for you to try to continue this run. And we're talking this like they've won the NBA Finals, that they haven't. What I argue is that this is what the NBA wanted. We have had, let's see, I'm going to count how many teams since 2019 have made it to the NBA Finals. Not even winning a championship, but making it to the NBA Finals. You have the Raptors, the Warriors, the Lakers, the Heat, the Bucks, the Suns, the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Mavericks. Those are the teams that have made the NBA Finals in the last 6 years, 7 years. The league is full of parity right now. What I argue is, and I think that this is not necessarily an argument, but this is, if you look at ratings, you look at national storylines, dynasties are good for sports. The NFL got lucky. The NFL, we went straight from, and this is one of the crazier things, right? We went straight from the New England Patriots dynasty, where they win, 6 championships, they win 6 titles, and you go straight from there. You have an AFC championship game against the Patriots and the Chiefs. The Patriots win, they go to the Super Bowl, and then you literally go straight into the Chiefs dynasty. And now we've seen what the Chiefs have done over the last 5 years. It's good for sports. It's good when there is a villain. It is good when there is a team that people root against. It is good when there are superstars that you see over and over again that people are either actively rooting for because they're a fan of the team or they like certain players, or the rest of the country, when you look at one of those maps that are on Instagram where it says who's rooting for who, and the Chiefs are on there, and every other state is besides Missouri is and Kansas are rooting for the Chiefs. Right? Everyone else is rooting against them. It is good for sports. Right now, you have the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Knicks, Pacers. 3 small market teams in Minnesota, the Thunder, and Indiana. I'm not here to argue. I think that small market teams have their place, and I do think that we are to a point now in society that small market teams don't necessarily matter. It's star power, all these things. It's how marketable are the players on there. But you don't have a villain. You don't have a villain. Last year, typically, it would be like the Boston Celtics are the villain. Well, they hadn't won a championship since 2008. They got to the championship in 2022. We thought maybe they were going to end the dynasty of the Warriors. They didn't. And here over the last couple of years, we've just had a bunch of we haven't had a NBA Finals even go to a Game 7 since 2016 when the Cavs came back from 3-1. Don't even have a Game 7. Since 2016, the Warriors beat the Cavs 4-1 and then 4-0. Then the Raptors beat the Warriors 4-2 in the year that Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt in the NBA Finals. The Lakers Heat in 2020 in the bubble went 4-2. The Bucks beat the Suns 4-2. The Warriors beat the Celtics 4-2. And then the Nuggets beat the Heat 4-1. The Celtics beat the Mavs 4-1. We haven't had a Game 7 in the NBA Finals since 2016. So the league can say they want parity. I think that dynasties subjectively or objectively are good for sports. And right now you don't have one. And you're going to have another champion this year. And you're going to look back at this time in the league where in the NBA, star power has driven. You had the Warriors, then you had the Miami Heat run. You had the Spurs run. You had the Lakers run. Before the Lakers run, you had the 2 Bulls three-peats. Then you had the Lakers with Magic, and you had the early bit of Larry Bird. You have these eras that are very defined. Right now, in the last 7 years, you have nothing. I think that the defining part of the last 7 years is international dominance. That's kind of it. This is what the league wanted, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily good for the league right now. And by the way, I've loved this NBA playoffs. It has been extremely fun to watch. I just think if you have a villain, and I think if the Celtics would have got back to the NBA Finals, they would be. But now everyone kind of feels bad for Jason Tatum and the Celtics, and you're like, okay, well, I think that they've won a little bit of sympathy. All I'm saying is the last 7 years, 7 different champions, no dynasty. I don't know if that's actually great for a sport because that era can kind of get lost. All right. That's all we got for you today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast, on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube. Is where we're going to push out a lot. You can also follow on Instagram, all those things, okay? We're going to be a little bit more consistent with this. I think that if you know, I am a high school teacher, and so we are now out for the summer, and so I have a little bit of time. If you know or you know someone who is in education, you know that the last month of the school year is completely chaotic with events and banquets and celebrations for your students and all these things. So it gets really chaotic, especially when you have your own kids. It just gets to being a lot. Now that school's out, home for the summer, we'll be getting out more content at a consistent basis. We're going to continue our Super Bowl series. Rewatching Super Bowls or watching for the first time, because right now we're the first 3 or 4, and I've never watched Super Bowl 4, 5, 6, 7. So watching those for the first time, so should be a good time. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. We'll be back soon. Going to do some more probably just breakdowns and one-offs on a bunch of different stuff. The NBA Finals and the Eastern and Western Conference Finals in the NBA. So, peace.